administrative conference room presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present there. And it talks about the following facts and why it has done so. We won't read those today. Just for information, this may be the last one we do over Zoom. We're looking at hopefully getting started sometime next month, or this month, I should say. The city council is trying to take off of their meeting next week, so we're going to just wait and see how they go, and we'll go from there, basically. And just a sad note to announce is that City Council member Barbara Christiansen died last Friday morning of complications of a lingering illness. Our prayers and thoughts go out to her family from the Planning Commission. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We'll start with the hearing, review, and action on the final plat for King and McCleary subdivision, Plat A, located at 230 West Main Street in the CC2 Central Commercial Zone. Adam, would you lead us in this one, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. This first item is the final plat for King and McCleary. This may look familiar because we did see the site plan a few weeks ago. This is just a subdivision plat which formally divides the properties. And actually, there were two properties to begin with. This basically shifts the lot line to go right down the center of the drive aisle between the two properties and the two structures. So each lot is approximately a quarter acre. And while the site plan did indicate that there's a shared access, and I believe there's been a document recorded to such effect, just as an extra measure of precaution, I'd recommend that there be a plat note added to the plat that also notices this shared access between the two properties. And with that, planning would recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions or concerns from the commissioners for planning on this one? We've talked about it in the past. It's pretty new to us.
I think Adam, that note's already on the, isn't it note number 8?
Let me double check on that.
City standard
yes,
notes.
okay. You're right, Harold. Okay, so strike that. That is there. So that was something I somehow overlooked, but you're correct. It is there.
It's okay.
Yeah, we talked
You're
about
busy.
that.
Yeah.
We talked about that in when they brought it before us last time. So, and I think they pointed that out.
Good catch, Harold. Jeff. All right, is engineering have any concerns with this project?
No concerns from engineering. Recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions for engineering from the commissioners? This does require a public hearing. Have we had any public hearing comments turn in on this one, Adam?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
All right, so we'll open and close the public hearing since how there's no comments to be made. I would like to entertain a motion from someone, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is Harold. I move that we recommend approval of the final plat of King and McCleary subdivision Plat A with the findings and conditions listed in the staff report, subject to any findings, conditions, and modifications listed in the engineering report.
Thank you. We have a motion from Harold. Do I have a second?
This is Ryan for second.
I have a second from Ryan. Any further comments on this project? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. Christine?
Hi.
Is Chris here?
I don't believe so, no.
Not yet. Ryan?
Aye.
Harold?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. So it's 5-0. Motion passes. Moving on. Hearing, review, and action on the preliminary and final plat for Mitchell Farms Plat D, located in the vicinity of 730 North, 860 West, in the R1 12,000 zone. Adam?
Thank you, Chairman. Just a quick update. Chris will likely not be joining us. He did send an email earlier. He was going to try to log on, but his service was really spotty, and so he didn't know if it would be successful. So if he's not with us, that's why.
Okay.
But I'll go ahead and introduce this next item. This is Mitchell Farms Plat D. This is basically at the southwest corner of the subdivision. So the intersection of 700 North and 900 West, it's the northeast portion of that intersection. This just kind of fills in that area. This is The only reason there's a preliminary plat before you is because the original expired, but this is the same as what was approved a few years ago, I believe in 2017. It's just another phase of the subdivision. All the lots exceed the minimum requirements for the zone, and we'd recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Any idea when they'll be taking the apple barn and the other buildings down that's on that corner piece of property?
I don't know, no.
Kind of sad to see him go, but that's progress. All right. Any questions or concerns for Adam from the commission? Hearing none. And engineering, any comments on this project?
No comments or issues. Engineering recommends approval.
All right, thank you. Any concerns from the commissioners towards engineering? This would
Towards
also-
engineering or towards the plan?
Well, it better be towards the plan, I guess. Good catch, Jeff. Still no comments. I guess we're good. This one also requires a hearing. Have we had any comments on this one, Adam?
No.
All right, we'll go ahead and open and then close the public hearing portion of the meeting on this one. I'd like to entertain a motion from someone on this one, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is Jeff. I move that we recommend approval of the final plat with the findings listed in the staff report and subject to any findings, conditions, and modifications found in the engineering report.
All right, thank you. We have a motion from Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second, Harold.
Harold, all right, thank you.
Oh, that was the final plat. So actually I need to do the preliminary plan first,
Yeah,
right?
preliminary and final both.
Okay, so I need to go through state both motions. So for the preliminary plan, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the preliminary plan subject to any findings, conditions, and modifications found in the engineering report.
All right, Harold, are you still on board for that one?
Second,
All right.
Do I need to
roll call.
restate the final plat? Do I need to restate that again?
Adam,
we go
what do
in
you
order?
think?
Has the vote been made on the preliminary?
Not yet, no.
No,
It's
do
just
that,
been seconded.
once that one is done, yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
Christine,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Harold,
aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
chairman votes aye also, 5-0 on that one. All right, now we'll do the final plat.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of the final plat with the findings listed in the staff report and subject to any findings, conditions, and modifications found in the engineering report.
Thank you. I have a motion from Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second, Harold.
Second from Harold. Thank you. Any further comments on the final plat? If not, we'll go with the roll call vote. Christine,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Harold,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
chairman votes aye also. It passes again. 5-0. Okay, moving along. Review and action on the final plat for Rockwell Ranch, Block 5, Phase 2, located in the area of 620 South, 1100 West in the TOD zone. Adam?
Thank you, Chairman. This is a fairly straightforward item. This is a final plat for Rockwell Ranch, Block 5, Phase 2. What this does is it adds a common area to the overall development. This was inadvertently left out of previous plats, and it's just kind of a cleanup item to formalize that and include it in a plat. So this is intended as open space, common area to be owned and maintained by the overall HOA for Rockwell Ranch.
Basically a housekeeping item, right?
Yes.
All right. Any comments or concerns from planning commissioners on this one to Adam? All right, this does not require a hearing, so we'll take a roll call vote. Oh, we need a motion first, I guess. Someone need a motion on this one, please, for someone.
I have a question, I guess. If this will kind of be used as water retention, but also as a play area, is that right?
It will be, I believe it will be landscaped as open space. I don't know that it will have like a playground equipment in it, but it's not just going to be left natural. It will be improved.
I'm just wondering if a crosswalk painting would be helpful if people from residential areas will be using it much. It's hard to tell the scale. Maybe it's not not as big as what I'm imagining, but that's just a consideration.
What, a crosswalk across 620 South, Christine?
Yes. Some kind of-
It's nearly 2 acres.
So it's about the same size as Martin Park out here behind my home.
I feel like when we have open space that would be used as gathering or play areas, a crosswalk's a good idea just for families and children. That's just a thought.
Well, I can support that because we have a similar issue with Hunter Park by my house. It's a very popular park, and the city, the crosswalk went in once the park was built, but then we added a rectangular rapid flashing beacon to enhance the safety. And so if we go that direction, which I support, we would need to add that amenity, in my opinion, as well, just because it brings enough attention to those that kids are crossing or people are crossing to go to the park, and that drivers will slow down.
So sorry, this is Tana from engineering. So I actually put up the plans for the development just to the north, and so they actually do show a crosswalk going across.
Lovely.
1100 and 620 South.
So with that, I would strongly suggest then that we put in the RFB with it.
I know there's a crosswalk here in the north end of Martin Park that was painted when they redid 7th North last fall, and it gets used quite a bit by the kids north of here coming down to the park all the time. So it's a good idea to have a crosswalk for sure. Any other comments or concerns? Adam, we can't necessarily put that crosswalk in the motion, can we?
It's shown on the plans.
It's
for
already there. Okay, I'm
improvements.
sorry. All right, let's have a motion on the Rockwell Ranch Block 5 Phase 2, please, then, from someone.
Do we want to hear does this require a hearing?
No,
Okay.
this is just review and action on this one.
I would just like to hear engineering's opinion on putting in a system like that with the crosswalk.
We can
Yeah.
look at it and see if, sorry, this is Rebecca Andrus, city engineer. We can look at it and see if it warrants. We want to be careful and use those in specific areas, and because if you have them everywhere, they begin to become white noise. So, we want to focus on having them on high intensity crosswalks in areas where, like, schools and things.
I understand that. At the same time, 620 South is a busy road and will become a busier road as the rest of that area develops. So I strongly encourage you to take that under consideration.
Yes, we can definitely look into that. And like I said, we can see if it warrants.
Do you think, Jeff, that it'd be as busy as 700 North eventually?
Potentially, and especially if things get punched through across the North County.
You know, there's a lot of traffic at 700 North, but there's no warning signal, just a crosswalk.
Yeah.
But it is used quite heavily by the neighborhood to the north of the park. Safety is a big issue. There's no doubt about that. All right, need a motion on the Rockwell Ranch Block 5 Phase 2, please, from someone.
This is Jeff. Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of the final plat of Rockwell Ranch Block 5 Phase 2 with the findings and condition listed in the staff report and subject to any findings, conditions, and modifications listed in the engineering report.
All right, thank you. I have a motion from Jeff. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Christina. All right, thank you. Any further questions or comments? If not, we'll take a roll call vote. Christine?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Harold?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Moving on, hearing, review, and action on the site plan for KT Dental located at 332 South, 500 East in the GC2 Planned Commercial Zone. Adam, would you lead us in this one, please?
Yes, thank you. This is KT Dental. It's proposed to be on Lot 3 of the Weiler subdivision, which was approved a few years ago along 500 East. So the proposal is for an approximately 2,300 square foot dental building, and the lot itself is about a 1/4 acre in size. So parking is provided, and while it does look tight, it does actually exceed the city's parking requirements. Landscaping is provided as well. The access is shared through a shared access easement and location that's called out on the subdivision plat, which is on the north side of the property. And then the access ultimately approved by UDOT. They've been coordinating with them for the access point. Planning would recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Any comments or concerns from the commissioners for planning?
Adam, it looks like this is a shared access. So is
Yes.
is that part of the agreement between these two properties?
Yes, and it's called
Yeah.
out on the subdivision plat itself. So it was noted when the original subdivision was approved.
Okay. Just wanted to verify that.
Yep.
Any other comments? Engineering, any concerns on this particular project?
No comments or concerns from engineering and recommends approval.
All right, thank you. Any comments or concerns from the commissioners to engineering on this project? Hearing none, this one requires a public hearing. Adam, any public hearing on this one? Or
No,
public
we've not
comments?
received any comments on this one.
All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing process then. Need a motion on this one for KT Dental, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is Harold. I move that we recommend approval of the site plan for KT Dental.
Did we lose Harold? Harold, you're muted.
Hey, you're muted back out, Harold.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to move something so I could read the whole approval. Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of the site plan for KT Dental with the findings and listed in the staff report and subject to any findings, conditions, modifications found in the engineering report.
All right, thank you. We have a motion from Harold. Do I have a second?
Second, Jeff. Oh, Christine can have it.
Second from Jeff. Any further comments or concerns on this one?
Chairman Wolfenden, this is Ken Berg.
Oh, hello, Mr. Ken.
How are you?
Well, fair to Midland. I didn't know you were there. Sorry about that. What do you
No,
have to
that's
say?
fine. You guys are on a roll. Before, as part of this, we needed you guys to give your recommendation on using the existing 500 East right-of-way that has an oversized planter to meet our parking requirement. I don't know if that's listed in your reports. If it is, that's great. I just didn't want to go to city council without your recommendation on that.
Adam, what's the status on that planner? You know?
No, I didn't have any issue with that, so I didn't bring that up, so.
Okay.
I knew
Do we
that
need
the
to add
site was
that?
tight. I don't believe it needs to be added. If there's any question later, I can address that, but I don't believe so.
Okay.
That satisfy you, Ken?
Of course. Thank you.
You're good to work with, young man. We put up with engineers all the time. All right, we have a
Okay.
motion and a second. Any further comments on this one then? If not, we'll take a vote. Christine,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Harold,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
chairman votes aye also. It passes 5-0. Thank you. Sorry for not noticing you, Ken. Next time.
No, you're on a roll. I don't ever want to stop when you guys are doing your job. So keep up the good work.
You don't want to stick around till 1 o'clock in the morning? It used to be fun.
No, I'll leave those for you guys.
Yeah, smart man, smart man.
And then does this one move on to city council or do we end with you guys?
This one goes on to council.
Okay. All right. Thank you
All
much.
right. Thank you, Ken.
Bye.
Okay, these next two we'll discuss together. We'll hold separate hearings and separate motions and separate votes. Number 5, hearing, review, and action on the land use map amendment located at 717 West Main Street from the major transportation facility to the design commercial designation. We'll go ahead and discuss the land use map first, then we'll go into the zone map amendment second. Adam?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, these can be discussed together. There are 2 motions in your report. So just a little bit of background. When UDOT came through and rebuilt or expanded I-15 a number of years ago, as well as Pioneer Crossing, this was part of the old Harts property, I believe, and it was obtained for that expansion purpose. It's no longer needed. The adjacent developer is purchasing that and would like to construct a site plan on this. But in order to do so, the underlying land use classification and zone map needed to be amended from that transportation facilities to the design commercial and then the SC1 zone as well. So you can see on the aerial that Vindeline's pulling up, it's basically just west of the Zupas and In and Out area. It's the leftover unimproved portion. This will be finished out. And as part of the site plan that we're actually reviewing in anticipation of this zone change, it does reroute quite extensively the In and Out drive-through. I know that was of concern at the last meeting. And so that is being addressed with the site plan that's being reviewed for this area. So with that, staff would recommend approval of both the land use and the zone map amendment.
All right, thank you. Engineer, any comments on this project?
No comments from engineering.
All right, thank you. Have we had any public comments on either the land use or the zone map amendments, Adam?
No.
All right, we'll go ahead and open those 2 hearings. We'll go ahead and close those 2 hearings. No comments received. We need a motion first on the land use amendment, land use map amendment, please, from someone.
Chair, this is Ryan. I move that we recommend approval of the land use map amendment.
All right, have a motion from Ryan. Do I have a second?
Jeff, second.
Have a second from Jeff. All right, thank you. Christine, voting on this one, please.
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Harold,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. It passes 5-0. Okay, now we need a motion we need a motion on the zone map amendment, please, from someone.
Mr. Chair, this is Ryan again. I move that we recommend approval of the zone map amendment.
All right, I have a motion from Ryan. Do I have a second?
Second, Jeff.
All right, thank you. Christine, voting on this one, please.
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Harold,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. It passes 5-0. Okay, we're down to number 7, hearing, review, and action on amendment to the Lake City Rural Plan Community Master Plan located in the vicinity of 860 East Utah Valley Drive and the PC Planned Community and the PI1 Planned Industrial Zone. Adam?
Thank you, Chairman. This area was annexed under the Vest annexation, most of this area in 2019, and the majority of the property was zoned PC or planned community. It was done in anticipation of mixed use development, which would consist of office space, retail, and then higher density residential. In addition to the annexation, there was a master plan approved for the area in November of that same year of 2019. The master plan itself, which is what's before you on the screen, envisioned up to a potential of 2,500 residential units. And then within those residential units, there were also areas of commercial, such as office and retail and other amongst the higher density. So also with the master plan, the applicants were granted a parking ratio, a reduced parking ratio of 1.8 stalls per unit. And this was done under the premise that a large area of shared parking would be present in between the office commercial and then the high density residential. And then this would be done to kind of offset those peak demands of residential and office use. You can see this area, it's called out as a crosshatched area on the plan, kind of at the southwest corner of phase 3 and then north of phase 1. It's kind of an area labeled as phase 5, and then also just kind of a general crosshatched area to the west. So the applicants have come with a proposed change to this master plan, which alters the commercial in phase 1 by removing the office designation and then also removing the 2 to 5 story designation from the anticipated product type. And in its place, what they propose is a 1 to 5 story, just general commercial building type, which is intended for office warehouse. And as staff, planning staff recommends against the proposed change. The original master plan, which was approved, as I stated just a few minutes ago, provided up to 2,500 residential units on the premise that this would be a true mixed use development. Office warehouse developments are typically found in largely industrial or light industrial areas and not within traditional higher density mixed use commercial developments. The office component of a mixed use development, along with more traditional retail, helps to create that mixed use environment, which is conducive for walkability. And then it also allows residents who live in those areas to conveniently access both workspaces and more traditional retail uses. Additionally, as I stated, the parking requirements for this area were reduced from the city standard of 2.25 stalls per unit down to the 1.8. And this was done on the premise that there would be approximately 1,500 commercial or office spaces to be used for this shared parking that would come out of phase 1, which is kind of what they're looking to change tonight. So office warehouse uses have a greatly reduced parking requirement, with the warehouse portions only requiring 1 space per 1,000 square feet. So while the applicant does propose in their written narrative a reduction of the overall residential units by about 250 units, the area that this reduction would occur would be in phase 3, which is north of, I believe it's Quality Drive. So phase 3 adjacent to phase 1 and adjacent to the shared parking space has already been approved for over 500 residential units at that reduced space. If office warehouse uses go in phase 1, it's going to further reduce the amount of shared parking available for those 2 uses, which was one of the premises of the reduced parking standard that was granted with the original master plan. And so basically our staff's main concern is twofold. One is the reduction of available parking for shared parking uses. And then also just because if phase 1 does go towards the office warehouse use, we feel that it kind of erodes the premise of a true mixed use community where you have higher density intermixed with office and retail. And it could potentially expand into other areas if the applicants feel that more traditional retail or office uses are not conducive in other areas. And so those are the main reasons why, as planning, we're recommending against the change to the master plan. I know the applicant will speak to why they feel this is needed, and while it still fits in their vision of a mixed use community, but that's the staff's report for you.
All right, thank you, Adam. Any comments, concerns for Adam on this from anybody on the commission?
So Adam, just to make sure I'm clear on this, phase 1 is that's currently going in as office commercial, right?
So it was originally approved and intended for office space. What they're looking to do is remove that
and now they want
component.
that office designation. Okay.
Yeah, what they would like to do is just give it a general commercial designation, and there's a zone change and a site plan in the wings for office warehouse for that area.
Okay.
However,
Just wanted to make sure.
yeah, we've kind of put pause on that until the master plan amendment moves through the council. So we know which way we're going with the review.
So my question to you, Adam, is, so you have what's currently labeled Twin Land, which is Built Bar, and then you've got Thermal Works down there in the same area. Those are how those are classified. I mean, their uses are somewhat industrial
Yes.
as well.
They are,
So-
but those are pre-existing, and so when a lot of this area
Understood.
annexed, it was annexed under the premise that this would be converted into more of a mixed use, true mixed use development with more traditional retail office components, and then the higher density residential mixed in as well. So phase 3, that was approved a few months ago. I believe it's the Ritchie project, and it was a little over 500 units in that phase 3 that was approved. But again, when the original master plan went before the council, the crosshatched area was intended for a kind of a shared parking area between the office use and the residential use, with those peaks being offset.
Right. I'm just trying to understand, trying to look at where staff is and trying to think of where the developer could be, because looking at the other uses, I can understand why they may want to go that direction. Okay, thank you, Adam.
All right.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Adam. I think that we shouldn't be changing the master plan, because putting office warehouses in here kind of defeats the idea of a mixed use, and it shoots the walkability down for those residents that would live there to want to walk around and go from, store or office or whatever it may be, because they're not going to want to go to an office warehouse. And with an office warehouse, you're going to have a lot of truck traffic coming and going. It's going to be awful noisy for people living there if they put office warehouses in. So I agree wholeheartedly with Adam that I don't think this amendment should go through and change the master plan. Anybody else have any concerns?
I have a comment. I remember recommending approval to this area, and I'm pretty excited about it. It's a great chance for like a true mixed use, like Adam was saying, and I really feel like it's important to keep it the way we originally approved it. We allowed them to have a higher density with the understanding that there would be that shared parking, and that it would be mixed use, and the higher density was also given with the understanding that the parking, the extra parking that they would need from the higher density would be covered by phase 5. So I think that's something that we need to have, and for a true mixed use development to work, it really needs that office commercial use to allow for walkability and local livability, workability, all those things that make a mixed use area work. And so if you take that out, if you turn this into office warehouse, not only do you have the truck traffic and the noise and the undesirableness of living next to a warehouse, we're kind of allowing, if we did allow it, we would be allowing the higher density without the amenities of a mixed use area. So I feel like it's really important that it stays a true mixed use area, even if it means postponing some of the development until the market is ready for it.
I agree.
Mr. Chairman, if it's possible, I would, before the commission deliberates, I would like a chance to kind of respond to the concerns, because that might help the deliberation.
Well, I was going to bring you in, but now that you're here, go ahead and we'll give you a couple of minutes to tell us about your project and why you think it's necessary to go against the master plan that we've already approved.
Okay, you've got it. And I just want to start with by showing appreciation.
State your name for the record, please.
Yes, my name is Buck Swaney. I'm with
Thank you.
Millennial Development Partners, or MDP Land, and we're the proponent of the master plan.
Thank you.
I do want to keep this discussion simple and direct. An important thing to note is that we've been delivering less residential density, and this adjustment that we're requesting would also deliver less commercial intensity. The LCR Lake City Row plan progress, we have a history of delivery. We've delivered $3 million of right-of-way, about $6 million of roads and utilities that are nearing completion right now. The utilities are paid for and sized for 2,500 units. We maintain a good faith obligation to the city and our partners to roll with commercial development because it's part of our core commitments. Now, as COVID happened, we experienced pretty unbelievable disruption to office economics, like nothing that the American economy has really ever seen before. I'm Zooming from a remote place, and I've conducted almost all of my business from outside of an office for the last year and a half, which I know is a common experience for very many people. And so this update that we're requesting is a result of our desire to keep commitments in a context that works economically. It is not born out of a desire to play any kind of sleight of hand or anything else. We want to keep things moving and be good to all of our partners. And so I want to address the the staff's what I consider to be their three kind of core concerns. And I'm hoping that everybody can kind of stay with me in this discussion, because I think I see some things the same way, and we'll make simple acknowledgements about those things. I see some things in a different way as well. So I'm going to start with this. As staff indicates in their report, that there was a lot of discussion about 2,500 units, land use compatibility. Really, I want to talk about the land use compatibility question. Staff's analysis is correct. In the master plan, we indeed desired to build office buildings here. And in fact, we began rather detailed work with Woodbury on the design of the first office building. We hoped that it would be nearing completion right about now, and we saw it as a high functioning mix of uses. All of that is completely correct. But the office world has changed on us in a way we couldn't have foreseen, one that we certainly didn't cause. And because of this, straight office as a real estate class is broken right now. If it's not under construction and if it's not funded, then in America, it's not happening. New strictly office projects are not coming out of the ground very much. If they are, it's usually because it's being built by a company for itself, certainly not on a spec basis. So we're trying to adapt to this, which is really the only reason that we're here tonight. Additionally, this proposed flex office land use completely surrounds the project site now, as Commissioner Dupay indicated. And really, it's the actual core of all existing walking distance commercial development around Lake City Row. Our intent is to deliver a compatible, attractive office flex building, which actually in the future can become primarily an office building. Our concept provides a significant bank of parking, just like we committed adjacent to the apartments. And in our mind, the adjusted land use remains compatible, and it delivers lots of very positive things. I sent Vendeline a couple of images that I want to bring up. This is because I don't want the Planning Commission to walk away with the sense that we're talking about a big, ugly industrial development. This is a building which is a two-story concept or design. It has that form. And through the installation of mezzanines, ultimately the whole building could be brought into use as an office building. It's designed to look like and feel like an office building and to not feel like an industrial building. And the second image that you see on the right is the site plan. On the site plan, quite importantly, although this site as a land use, if we're looking at flex industrial, would require about 95 parking spots, we pushed a big bank of parking up to the north of the site, immediately adjacent to the apartments. That provides between 50 and 60 overflow units at that apartment exit point. And instead of 95 parking units, we supplied it with 207 parking units. And so we're making very good faith efforts to cover some of the ground that kind of gets uncovered by changing the land use. I moved just a little bit down in my notes and move to a second issue, which I'm going to call parking allocation. The staff indicates in their notes to you, parking requirements for residential portions of the project were reduced from 2.25 to 1.8 based on a proposed count of approximately 1,500 commercial parking spaces being provided. Staff's analysis is generally correct that the office area of the project would have yielded a lot of parking spaces, some of which, not all of which, would have been used as a shared parking amenity. Perhaps toward 800, Adam, I'm thinking that it's 4 stalls per 1,000 for office, is that correct?
Yeah, 4.5. But yeah, typically that's what we've seen with office developments.
Right. So we intended to put originally about 200,000 square feet of office there, so it would have yielded about 800 spots right there. And so, you know, that is a lot of parking. In my mind, in my view, staff's analysis overlooks a few key facts that I want to make kind of get out there into the conversation. The first is that in the master plan, Vendeline, if you could go back to the phasing sheet of the master plan. There you go. All right. If you look over in the key at the right, you'll see that the third color down has the kind of the high density phase 3 stuff. I think that's not the phasing plan. That's the concept plan, correct? There we go. All right. You see that in phase 3, it shows maximum density, 120 dwelling units per acre. If you zoom out just a little bit so we can see the Aspen Meadows property where this phase 3 is, the non-hatched phase 3, that's the area where we had targeted up to 120 dwelling units of per acre of density. But on the next sheet, we saw a more likely outcome of 50 dwelling units per acre. We actually landed at 34 dwelling units per acre on this 15-acre part of the site. And so the parking need is much less dramatic. It's a much smaller take on parking. Instead of the intended 754 units that we allocated based on 50 dwelling units per acre, the site's final design only contained 512 units. Our proposed 250 unit reduction, it actually comes from this area. It was drawn from this area, not the phase 3 area to the north. So the practicalities of developing this site just packed much less of a demand for parking right around the phase 5 area. And so we want to take 250 off of this site now. We actually also think we're going to take significantly more off of the balance of phase 3 when it comes to be built. So we expect to continue making additional density reductions as we go and kind of as the economics become clearer. One of the things that has become clearer is that it is easier or more reasonable for developers right now to build some product that's less dense than they initially indicated. So again, instead of needing 1,358 stalls, this Aspen Meadow project, this first phase of phase 3, it only needed 922 stalls. That's a reduction of 450 stalls right in and around this shared parking amenity. To make things even better, Aspen Meadows delivered 1,007 stalls, almost 100 more than required, and achieved a ratio of 1.97 on their parking. Again, more than was required by our agreement. And so all of this is to say that the final outcome of that first kind of project in the area was delivery of much higher than required parking and a 40% reduction in the pressure on the shared parking area. And then remember, please, that the parking area is already supplemented by 200 shared parking stalls over on the Built Bar back parking lot. And then concern 3, which I'm going to call limiting change to the master plan. Staff is concerned that if this change is made, that other parts of the project would come under the same pressure. I acknowledge the concern. I also acknowledge that with this change, parking would be reduced, but so would parking pressure, and so would the intensity of use. And I'm not just talking about the density of residential, I'm talking about the intensity of the commercial use. Instead of 800 office cars coming and going twice a day, you have more like 200 cars coming and going in an office flex context. So that's just a lot less traffic in the area, and it's more, maybe perhaps more compatible with the residential site in its own right. There's a lot less cars coming and going. And so I wanted to point that particular thing out. And in addition, we're totally happy to make a complete commitment to no other areas of flex office. This is the place where it makes sense. This is where it feels like it's compatible. And the phase 4 area, which is kind of up and to the right on this drawing, we've been actively working on it for more than a year now as the place where we're going to be able to deploy the mixed use retail component of the project, which we remain completely committed to, and it also remains financially viable, as we knew from the beginning, because of the density that's being built around it. It just has to be removed by a couple of years, which we also have been clear about from the beginning of the project. And so really to summarize my comments, everybody, we're delivering and we'll keep delivering reductions in density. We also want to reduce some of the development intensity here, and we want to keep the city and our partner commitments the best that we can. That's why we come before you today.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant from commissioners? Any specific questions that you want to address?
So that I understand your point is by going, your plan is to reduce the number of units in phase 3, which will lower the number of parking stalls required, plus having less intense, as you put it, industrial or commercial use, commercial light industrial in phase 1. You'll still be able to, there will still be an opportunity to have some overflow parking should that be needed in those areas. Is that correct? Am I understanding that right?
That is correct. And in fact, that the site plan follows through on the commitment that we made when we got the parking reduction from the city, that every time a site plan comes through, we will orient a significant bank of parking up toward the apartment buildings so that it has high utility. And so, yes, that's all correct, as you state.
Okay, thank you.
What about the added truck traffic? If you have office warehouses, you're going to have more truck traffic than you would automobile traffic. How do you address that?
Quite simply, there would be a mix of truck traffic, but these buildings are not gigantic. We're not talking about what you see out at the International Center in Salt Lake. And we also, with the site plan, we have access, ingress, egress points that go both down to Utah Valley Drive and also out to 860. And it would be quite easy for us to orient the truck traffic south and away from the apartments with our site design.
Will these buildings have loading zones and so forth these trucks will be using?
That's correct, yes. In the back of the building. Yeah, okay, we pull that up to full size. There we go. So you can see we have ingress, egress on the south, on the north. We have a fairly large turnaround area, very wide driveway on the west. And those are the loading zones kind of in the back on the west there.
So your intent would be to should this move forward, your intent would be to have the trucks not going north, because I would hate to see those trucks trying to navigate that roundabout depending on their size. That you show in your other plan. So the intent would be to push them back down to 930 and bring them back up Utah Valley Drive over to 500 East, or go down to Sam White Lane and come across.
Yeah, that would be by design. That would be the easiest and most efficient thing. And it would certainly be easy enough for us to do things with the site to ensure that outcome is kind of the mode, right? One more thing that I neglected to say is that the access point from the Ritchie Apartments to the north, the Aspen Meadows Apartments, there's a small driveway you can see kind of at the upper left-hand corner of the site plan. The Ritchie Group is amenable to closing that driveway so that the two kinds of traffics don't interfere. If that's what the city, the staff, the planning commission want. Cars that park down here would not likely be, I'm saying as a shared parking amenity, would not likely be resident cars. They wouldn't be allowed to park here overnight. These cars would be visitor cars. And so being able to just walk into the site from the shared parking banks here would work. So we can also, structurally solve the interference of the two different kinds of traffic by closing that access point off, which the owner of the property to the north is amenable to.
Any other questions or comments for the applicant, please?
I feel like this office warehouse is beautiful and would work really well in an industrial area. I don't feel that it fits a residential area. For a mixed use, it would require things like markets and, obviously offices, services, recreation, shops, where people go for their work or their errands. And that's what creates less cars in and out. It's that people can walk to their destinations and can kind of live locally. And I just feel like as planners, we're trying to look at a whole area and what works together. And this plan has several pieces that would work great, but when we're looking at them together, we need to see how they affect each other and how they work together as a mixed use.
All right, thank you, Kristen.
Can I ask
Anything
a
from-
question? Well, can I ask a question? If this was originally slated to be office mixed use, right?
Yes.
Correct.
Office, really office.
So
And so we're talking
with
about-
that in mind, we're not talking a lot of shops or anything of that nature if it was originally planned to be office.
Yeah, in this area, no shops, no retail was intended to be part of the mix. This was a horizontal piece of the mixed use development. So kind of office over here, residential over there. And the integrated mixed use is over there in the phase 4 area.
Yeah, so as you know, Christine, you bring up a really good point looking at how this fits within the greater area. I think we do have to take into consideration what is there to the south and west, which is definitely more office and light industrial. Plus, as I've driven through some of the mixed use developments that we've got further north, where we do have shops, I haven't seen a whole lot of, and I get it, a lot of it is because of COVID. I haven't seen a lot of that of businesses in those areas that we've already planned. So I just look at this area as far as shopping or doing those types of things that kind of keep people close by. The city really doesn't have a whole lot in this area to begin with outside of being on the edges. If any of these people, if they're going to go shopping, they're going to be going up to State Street and going to other parts because there's that type of business isn't in here.
And
So,
I think that was kind of the premise of this mixed use adjacent to what used to be known as Vintaro, is by granting these higher densities, it would allow more of those traditional retail uses to be located here. So these people wouldn't have to drive to other areas of the city, that it would kind of pull those into this area. And I know
Right,
that's kind of how it was sold to the council.
right, and I understand that, but from what I'm hearing, that phase 1 was more planned to be office, and that negates quite a bit of that retail functionality.
Yes, it was proposed to be office. But that was to provide a lot of that shared parking and then provide just more of a traditional office component as opposed to a light industrial component. Because the light industrial does exist to the south and west, that is true. But it was to try to tie in more of a traditional the new one,
Adam,
just
you froze.
I guess to the south adjacent to I-15.
You froze for a second.
Yeah.
But that is.
Oh, sorry.
Correct. That is what was intended. And we would be halfway there right now, if not for the change that's upon us in really in the whole world market.
But can I ask a question? You said that there would be a reduction of units in phase 3. Are you looking to redo the Ritchie Group apartments and run that through again? Because that's already been approved. And so I maybe you
No.
lost me there when you said that those numbers would be reduced.
No, I think there's been maybe it's easy to overlook. Phase 3 has two pieces. The whole central section, there's the lower piece of phase 3 below quality.
Yes.
That's the one that's approved and complete. And then there's the upper section of phase 3.
Yeah, that's
which is
one.
in review of some sort right now. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so what I guess my point was the lower section of phase 3 has already been approved with those, 500 plus units under the assumption that a large area would be able to be used for that shared overflow parking. And so that was the concern I was trying to point out in the report is all.
Yeah, and I understand that, I comprehend it, and I think I'm just trying to bring some new context to the conversation, and that context is that when we passed this master plan, we thought 750 units were going to be built in phase 3. We thought we were going to be 50 units per acre. And as that plan went through the works at the Ritchie Group, it came out at just a lot lower number. And so it has created a smaller demand on the shared parking amenity, that's all.
Okay.
Ryan and Harold, we haven't heard from you yet. You got any thoughts on this problem?
Yeah, this is Ryan. Go ahead, Harold. Was I walking on him?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe I was hearing a reverb on my end, but so I'm struggling to fully understand the situation with regard to where we're at in regard or in regards to phase 3. There, it sounds like, Adam, I was appreciating your comment because that's where I was at right now, was trying to understand what has been approved. I think the original, this map and the parking requirements could have been 1,350 units or parking stalls, but it sounds like now we're going to be significantly less than that based on what has been approved. And so I can appreciate that, the market has totally changed. Now, who knows how long that lasts, but there's definitely and I'm also curious to know where is the other drawing that came up with regard to the office warehouse proposal. Where is that going to fit in this master plan? That very south corner of phase 1.
Correct.
So what is going in the, I'll call it left side, northwest side of that right there of phase 1?
That's going to continue for the time being to stay agricultural. There are no concrete plans on it yet, but we would be designing all utilities, access, et cetera, to just continue the approved land use over into that area too. And where you see the crosshatching for the shared parking amenity just above it, we would orient the building, of course, to maximize the size and the quality of that bank of shared parking.
Okay. Is there some sort of road planned through that phase 5 crosshatch parking?
Yeah, there's actually through the very far left side of phase 3, the already approved part of phase 3 from Quality Drive down, there is a driveway access that goes straight down to the crosshatch area. And that was part of the site design consideration when Aspen Meadows did their project, is that we gained approvals on the basis of creating a shared parking amenity. And so we needed to have access to the different projects to the shared parking amenity. And so there are significant high quality accesses into and through this area.
Okay. I feel like there's, I'm kind of maybe in between Christine and Rod's position here. If this was slated to be much like the other 5-story building right along Sam White Bridge, essentially a 5-story office tower, then this wasn't going to be anything that was going to be a walkable, short of walking to work. It wasn't intended or going likely to be a, walk to the Walgreens, walk to the, Walmart, local Walmart kind of grocery store, whatever. And so, my gut feeling would be to down towards, if I'm understanding correctly, that phase 1 is kind of going around the building for Tri-Phase Electric. Am I in the right spot, Adam?
Yeah, you are.
Okay, all right. That obviously is industrial warehouse space. And so it fits on that side of it, as long as we are taking care of some of those parking. I'm kind of strict. I probably would not have voted for a 181 or 180, 1.8 per acre.
I think another reason the office component was so important here was it was intended to act as a buffer between the more, I guess you could say, industrial uses to the south to the residential uses to the north. And so those office uses would provide not only potential places of employment, additional parking, but also as a buffer between the more industrial use and residential.
Do we have any kind of requirement on, this was all approved and designed based on phase 1 having a parking structure or a high parking, shared parking component. Is there any kind of requirement on when they have to put that in?
The annexation agreement itself called out different levels of residential development that would be allowed to happen before commercial components moved forward. And so it wasn't necessarily, while it says phase 1, it doesn't necessarily mean that was the first phase to be developed. It's just how they numbered their phases. But the annexation agreement, again, did call out you could have X amount of residential. Before the next level of residential starts, you need to have so much commercial under consideration. And so that's really how that was structured.
Adam, I heard Ryan's question just a little bit differently. So let me add two cents more. And the way that I heard the question was there a commitment for when we're supposed to build the shared parking amenity? If that's the question you're asking, then the answer is that the commitment is, as we do each site plan for the properties in this phase 1 area, that the site plan addresses the requirement for the shared parking amenity within the site plan approval process. So it's built as we go, making sure that we honor the commitment to make the shared parking accessible and useful as overflow to the residential area.
Okay, that's helpful. That is where I was going with my question, was just to make sure that there's not because the alternative is to say, no, we're not going to do it. And then you never build the commercial component, which is obviously a risk that I don't want to see us happen. So I guess long-winded answer is that I'm probably would consider a potential change there. If it was, I would probably want to see the actual math to know how many stalls are we netting in this change if we were to go that direction. And then confirming that this wouldn't, to Christine, I think is really a big proponent, I am as well. If we're going to have this high density type living, then we need to have those shops. And one of my favorite places is the All About Bakery that's over there, frankly. And that's a great type of product for those areas. And I just think, but in my mind, this phase 1 project was not going to facilitate that type of environment for these residents anyway. So
Correct.
that's
It
where I
was, it was,
stand.
yeah, it was always intended as office for phase one. You're correct.
You can
That's
see
kind of my point.
on the map there on phase 3 and 4, there's a kind of a cross hatching, and that indicated that these were kind of the areas that we saw as the potential areas to do the vertical type of mixed use with the retail component. And so as the couple of years have passed since we first met on this, that action has moved over to the phase 4 area. Yes. Which again, economically, one of the first things that happened is we ran a market study as soon as we had our approval, and the economic consultant said, "Wow, this thing is going to be really pretty for retail." And we're not talking about like Target style retail, but grocery, small grocery retail, village kind of scale stuff, restaurants and things like that. And so all of the discussion with investors since then, which has been uniformly positive, is that when we get enough of this other residential done, that's how they and we want to address phase 4.
Okay, any other comments or concerns on this one for the applicant?
Just a comment. Thank you for the discussion.
Yes,
This
thank
has
you very
been
much.
very informative, and you know, there's some hard decisions, but it's been very very well. Things have been very well stated. So and I think we've had a really good discussion about this.
No, I agree. Thank you, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one more question for Mr. Buck, sorry. Is it Buck?
It's Buck is my first name.
First name, okay. I just see the, okay. Could you just tell me again what is phase 5? Is that what you were saying with, what do you have planned for phase 5?
So phase 5 has been just left in commercial. Phase 5, as I look at the project, this is actually a couple of parcels. One of the top phase 5 is where the doghouse is. We don't own the doghouse. We've been trying to buy it for a couple of years. And the lower phase 5 is actually the Hadco property. And I think that they have a site plan coming your way, but we were never able to assemble those two properties in phase 5. And so I wouldn't see us being likely involved in their planning unless we could ultimately acquire the doghouse. What we wanted to do was draw them in here as a possibility, because if we had density left over at the end of the project, one of the little keynotes at the bottom says that we could push density around to phases 3, 4, and 5 if it was left over. And we thought that perhaps we could get a little mixed use, something on that upper phase 5 parcel where we would have a few apartments above and some small, I'm going to say, you know, kind of coffee shop style of retail down below. And so just to make that real trim, I don't see phase 5 really kind of falling in to the things that we're doing.
All right, thank you. Adam, do we have any public comments on this one for public hearing?
No, not on this one.
All right. We'll open the public hearing. There's no comments. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this one. Any other comments or concerns before we ask for a vote? We've heard the applicant, appreciate his input. Any other comments or concerns? If not, we'll ask for a motion on this one, please, from someone.
There are so many things I like about this project. I just feel that some of the uses are industrial, so I'm going to say, Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend, sorry, I have to move something. Denial of the proposed Lake City Row master plan amendment with the finding that conversion of office commercial to office warehouse does not follow the original intent to create a mixed use community, and the removal of office from phase 1 will reduce availability of parking intended as shared parking as identified in the original master plan.
All right, we have a motion for denial from Christie. Do I have a second? Anybody want to second the motion?
Mr. Chair, this is Ryan. I probably would be more in favor of a table of this to better understand it for me. So I'll just throw that out there, that's probably where I sit.
All right, Christine, do you want to change your motion to table in that respect? We do have a lot of loose ends that we haven't fully discussed, I think, but it probably wouldn't hurt to go through it in more detail and get some more actual drawings and so forth, but it's up to you. I can't make the motion.
Adam, what?
If there's no second, the motion would die, and then
Yeah.
you could open it up for another motion.
Okay, apparently there's no second for the denial. We'll open it for another motion. So another motion, please.
With
Mr.
that,
Chairman,
I'll-
I move,
Go ahead.
oh, go for it, Ryan.
Don't fight over it, guys. Come on.
You're fine. Go ahead, Jeff.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table action on the proposed Lake City Road Master Plan amendment.
All right, we have a motion to table. Do I have a second?
This is Ryan. I'll second.
We're okay. Any further discussion on this one?
I would just ask the applicant to, I'd be really interested to understand those numbers a little better. And I apologize if I'm the one that's not prepared well enough to understand the real difference. I'm intrigued by the what has been approved in phase 3, total parking stall needed. It sounds like we've actually changed that enough that I'm not prepared to really understand that. I would appreciate more information there.
I agree, Ryan. I think the parking numbers went back and forth so much that I'm still sitting here trying to figure out which way we're going. I'm not sure which way is north on the drawings right now. So
Yeah.
I think tabling would be a very good thing. So
I
we have a motion.
Oh, can I ask a question just to clarify? So while I'm thinking about this, the office warehouse that you proposed is going north and south. Is that right? In
That
the
is
leg
correct.
Goes down.
Yeah, so it's all of the faces that are visible from the public roads would have very high quality architectural finishes, and they would look just like offices.
And the arm that's going horizontal, you don't have plans for that presently?
Not presently. What we will have is really the kind of high level utility plans to make sure we have access, circulation, sewer, water, and things like that. But how the site is ultimately built, we don't have that planning done at this point.
Being that the horizontal section is more visible to the residential area, I would be, I guess, more interested in what fits in that piece. And it's possible that the office warehouse doesn't have enough visibility to play a major role, although I don't like the idea of trucks and industrial. Anyway, that's my comment, so.
All right, we have a motion and a second to table. Let's take a vote and see how it comes out. Christine,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Harold,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also, so the motion has been tabled. The applicant, do you know what you need to bring forth to clarify the questions that's been asked for when it comes back on the agenda?
It sounds to me like really the thing we need to focus on is making sure that kind of the effect on parking is clear. What units were approved and how many parking stalls are available versus needed. This just sounds like we kind of need a little table to help us understand the master plan drawing.
Good point. I think if you were to bring some architectural drawings of what your office warehouse will look like, and maybe even address the walkability issue too, is it going to interfere with walkability around the project by putting office warehouses in?
And how trucks would interact with the area.
How the noise of the trucks and so forth, the loading docks and all that.
Good point.
Thank you so much for coming.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, would you like this on the next Planning Commission agenda? That would be April 21st. That agenda goes out, I believe, tomorrow. If the applicant can get that information to us, we could probably put this on the next agenda, or if the applicant needs more time, we can look into May, but I just wanted to ask that to you.
All right, Buck, it's up to you. Can you get the information into Adam by tomorrow?
Well, it's not that the information has to be
Sure.
in tomorrow. It's just the reports would go out next week. But I just wondered if you as a planning commission wanted to see this at your next meeting, because if you do, we can put it on the agenda.
Well, I think if we get on the agenda, it wouldn't slow down the development at all. Let's see if we can make it work. That's my opinion. What's the rest of you think?
I personally like the idea of trying to keep the ball rolling to benefit the developer. I don't like the idea of stalling unless he needs more time and doesn't feel like he could get information to us by next week to be submitted in our packet.
I do not need more time. I can accommodate. This works great for me and I appreciate the accommodation.
Yep.
Okay, we'll make sure that that's on the agenda that goes out.
Okay,
All right.
before you,
Everybody's happy. Let's make it happen.
before you cut me off, let me make sure I have my bullets. I'm going to map the parking changes for you. I'm going to address some of the walkability questions. And then I'm going to address, I think the other thing was truck traffic.
Correct.
One other option could be landscaping, like if there are, beautiful trees that would, I don't know, kind of
Create a buffer.
create a
Well,
buffer.
Buffering.
Landscaping, it'd help with the walkability too.
Yes, indeed. Okay. And that's something that that we could spend a little bit of time drawing up in a way that is concrete for you all. And I'll be happy to do that before the next meeting.
I
All
think-
right.
Let me just add as well, if I can, just understanding the materials that you intend to use. A lot of this hinges on whether this is going to be, if it's going to appear like an office product on the facade, on the north face of this, or I guess on the horizontal one, it would be on the north face, but on the likely similar to the other one on the east face. Understanding what your intent to build that is. That a tilt building? Is that a stick frame, or is that a metal frame? I don't know what that's made out of. So
Yeah.
pre-engineered metal building. I mean, there's a litany of differences between those finishes that would I think help me understand kind of how that's going to appear if I live across the street from this.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right. We've all got our marching orders. Let's make it happen. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Thank you, Buck. Moving on, hearing, review, and action on amendments to section 17.4.401 entitled CC1 Central Commercial Zone of the American Fork City Municipal Code regarding the variability of road cross sections. Adam, would you lead us in this one, please?
I might turn this over to Rebecca in engineering to kind of lead out, but we did get an email from the applicant that basically stated he wasn't really interested in pursuing this any further because of the staff's recommendation that is before you tonight, which is a recommendation against making those changes. But for more particulars, I can turn that over to Rebecca.
Is she still here?
I'm still here.
You're still here. All right, go ahead.
I'm still here. So, yeah, so this, as stated in the report, this request was essentially to reduce the right-of-way on Barrett by the amount of the park strip. And because of the limited amount of right-of-way in a local street and the need for connectivity and pedestrian uses, bike uses, just the whole ability to commute within the downtown area by whatever means people want to do that. We're recommending that this area is not, that the right-of-way is not decreased. However, in the recommendation, we did talk somewhat about, and maybe as a future item of interest, the downtown streets do have a different character than some of the other streets. Sometimes you want to have wider sidewalks, angled parking, bike lanes, different things like that, to basically promote all ways of accessing those areas. And so make sure that businesses can be accessed there's plenty of parking, different things like that. So we do want to potentially look at in the future changing the character of the area behind the curb and gutter to where more of it is potentially sidewalk, and a little bit less of it maybe park strip. But that's not the request that's before you. That's just something that we saw as staff and kind of felt like that might be something we wanted to review in the future.
Okay. Adam, how do we handle this thing? Do we still hold a public hearing? Do we vote on it? What do we do when he doesn't want, when the applicant change his mind?
I'd still recommend voting on it to finalize the closing out. So I would recommend that any motion be a recommendation against the proposed amendments, and it would move on to council as such.
Okay. Have we had any public comments on this one for public hearing?
No.
All right, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. No comments. We'll close the public hearing. Would someone like to make a motion on the item, please?
This is Jeff. Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend denial of the code text amendment.
All right, I have a motion from Jeff for denial. Do I have a second on this one?
Second, Harold.
Second by Harold. All right, thank you. Any further discussion on this item? If not, we'll take a vote. Christine?
You were muted, Christine.
Sorry. Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Harold?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. The motion is denied. All right, moving on to the number 9. Hearing, review, and action on a zone map amendment located at 1155 East, 300 North from the RA1 Residential Agricultural to the R1 9000 Residential Zone. Adam, lead us in this one, please.
Yes, thank you. This, as you stated, this is about 1155 East, 300 North. Just to the east of this property, there is a partially or 3/4 or more built cul-de-sac that has been subdivided. The property owner wishes to finish out that subdivision on this west side. It would require finishing out the cul-de-sac on the north and then a portion of the road. But in order to do so, the underlying zone would need to be changed, and they're asking for the R19 to be consistent with what's existing to the east and north. It does meet the underlying land use plan of low density residential, and planning staff would recommend approval.
All right, thank you. Any questions or concerns for planning from the commission? Engineering, any concerns on this one?
No concerns, but I did email out our engineering report that got left out inadvertently. Basically just stating that additional right-of-way would be required along 300 North. That's classified as a collector roadway. And so.
All right.
Other issues though.
Any questions for engineering from the commissioners? This one also requires a hearing. Any public comments on this one, Adam?
No.
All right, we'll open the public hearing. No comments. We'll close the public hearing.
Chair, can I ask a question of engineering again? I just wanted to make sure I understood. Will you restate your comment about access on 300?
So 300 North is classified as a collector roadway.
Right.
And so as part of with the zone change, additional right-of-way would be required, but it'd be required at time of development for the subdivision.
So it would be a secondary as opposed to the one that's already there as part
No,
of that?
it's just additional right of way would be needed.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was misunderstanding that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, any other questions or concerns for this project? If not, we need a motion on this one too, please, from someone.
Mr. Chair, this is Ryan. I move to approve that we recommend approval, of the zone map amendment subject to any conditions listed in the engineering report.
Thank you. I have a motion from Ryan. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Christine. Thank you. Any further comments or concerns? If not, we'll take a vote. Christine,
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Harold,
Aye.
Jeff,
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. It passes 5-0. Thank you. All right, we're down to number 10. Now, this is a discussion item only. It has to do with the Northampton House. We've had them before us several times before. This one is, like I say, it's discussion only. There'll be no votes taken, no motions made. It's just to feel what the latest agenda he has for the project area. Adam, would you lead us in this discussion? Start us out, please.
Yes, I will. Thank you for addressing that this has been before you as discussion items before. I believe this is, the fourth time you've seen it. I do want to make you aware, or for those watching, we have received a number of comments on this from area residents and neighbors, overwhelmingly opposed to the idea, as they have been before. But because it's not a public hearing, I won't be reading all of those into the record individually as I would if it were a public hearing. But I do want just to make everyone aware that we have received a number of comments on this. I have sent all of those, or we have sent all of those to you over the last couple days as we have received them. So they will be part of the record. But again, it's not a public hearing. Again, the applicant is looking to utilize a portion of the development code intended for historic building conservation projects in order to, I guess, preserve the building. But in order to do so, he feels that it's necessary to add additional buildings directly adjacent to the old church, which is now a reception center that's there. We've not made any kind of formal review on this because we don't have, it's never been submitted as a formal application. But I will state just myself as in the planning department and in planning staff that while the development code does allow uses to be expanded that may not be in compliance with the underlying zone, I feel that what the applicant's been trying to do, not only with this, but with previous items for discussion, kind of stretches the code probably beyond what its intent was. And so that's just my initial thought on it, but I know he would like the opportunity to speak and why he feels this is necessary. If this is submitted as a formal application, you would get a formal report from me in planning, and you would have some, my thoughts as it relates to how this comports or not with the development code in that report. But with that, I could answer any initial questions, or Mr. Chairman, if you want to turn it over to Mr. Yingling, you can.
All right, thank you. Any questions or concerns, comments for planning and/or Adam from the commission?
Your video on too.
Like I said, this has been before us a number of times. I personally reviewed approximately a dozen emails today, as Adam stated, from the residents in the area, and they've been completely against this project for different reasons: traffic, safety of the school kids, infrastructure, all kinds of different reasons. We appreciate the residents participating, letting us know how they feel about their neighborhood. Is Mr. Yingling on board right now?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Yingling, we'll give you about 5 to 6 minutes to tell us about your project this time. Like Adam said, the next step is going to have to probably be a formal submission from you to the Planning Commission to go through to the City Council. So tell us what is different, what you've changed your ideas on from the last couple, 3 times you've been before us.
Okay, thank you, commissioners, for this opportunity. The reason why we're coming again is because after the last time, we went back to the drawing board, taking into consideration feedback from public comment. Some of the feedback we got was obviously this concern about density. In fact, I was contacted by one individual that said, Kurt, what you really need to do is you're really not doing what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to get this density down. Well, this whole the whole premise of this project, we really feel like, based on the analysis we've done, is that considering the costs involved in developing the old building, which it's been stated, by individuals in this meeting now, that it would be very costly to rehabilitate to today's standards. We have shown that the only way to really make this a 100-year building for the next 100 years, rather than continuously cycling from small business to small business and taking the risk there, we would like to rehabilitate the building. And we feel like we need to be able to do that cost effectively and economically through a wonderful development, as you can see in this design, where we've spent quite a bit of time and money showing that we can create a beautiful garden. You can see it there. We've spent, gone the rounds actually with the architect over and over and over again to make sure that we're putting in features from the old building, trying to bring out that neo-Gothic and Victorian look. It's really quite in-depth and beautiful the way it is. We feel like, and we've seen this in the numbers, that we need to have this development to basically make the other cost effective. There's basically two options on this that you've heard before. We can do the development without the building, or we can do a development with the building. Now, without the building, we don't have any other alternatives but the underlying zone. But we're at a point in our lives personally where we're going to make a decision here. It's probably by the end of the year. And once we shut the doors, if we continue to get negative feedback on this, we're trying to make this something that is wonderful, that would really complement. We have articles, research showing from Salt Lake. University of Utah has done studies to show that this type of housing, in fact, even less valued housing, raises the property value. So many of these issues, we've dealt with traffic, we've gone through that. We've gone through many of these issues on the list that we've been able to get a hold of. Satisfied, we believe, in terms of the development, its impact on the community, on the neighborhood. We feel like the only remaining item then is the density issue, which is that calculates out to be between 14 and 15. So it's actually a kind of a small master plan with one of the phases being the old building, the other phase being the new units. The new units is 18, which is 50% of what we proposed last time. We feel like it can't be below that and still have the same nature and the same economic value that would enable the development of the old building. The old building cannot pencil out like it is. And it's been said before, people in this gathering have said, this is based on the Alpine Tabernacle and other examples. This is something that's very costly, very difficult to deal with, to make it worth something to a person that's trying to rehabilitate it in any sense of time. I'll be long gone and dead before this has any value if we try to just do it by itself. We're not willing to do a duplex out back, something crazy. We want to create this master plan that's beautiful the way it's set out. We feel like it would be a complement to the original settlers of the area. We know the history of it. Without getting into that'd take time. There's been a lot of sacrifice on the part of the original settlers in the area. The original parcel, being sold to John Hindley, the original builder that built it. We have pictures of all these individuals that participated in this this church that existed, and then after 100 years, it was sold off by the LDS Church. So anyway, that's not the point. The point is that we're at the end of its life cycle. There are things that need to be done now that we've already started paying for that are hundreds of thousands, and we're not going to do it under the auspices and function of a reception center. So the reception center is going away. And so what the community really needs to decide, it's not so much us anymore, because I'm open to a small development on the underlying zone. In fact, it's a lot easier. I don't want to tear it down. I'm an artistic person. I like things. I've spent extra money on this design. I'm willing to do almost whatever it takes to make this beautiful and make it work well and to keep the density as low as possible. And I think we're within that close range, you know, at 14, just over 14 units per acre, depending on how many are in the old building. The old building, frankly, depending on the seismic costs, we might only put 17 units in it. But if seismic pencils out properly, we'd like to put 23 units. So it'll be, you know, between about 38 and 41, maybe 36 or 37 total. But realistically, somewhere in the just shy of 40 units. So 18 new units. And then dealing with that old building, the thing that'll drive it is two things: seismic costs, and frankly, the beauty of each apartment. We're not trying to cram in a bunch of small things. We want some of these stately looking apartments that show off the architectural features. We have these, you know, old Gothic and Victorian features. We feel like, you know, frankly, there's only one way to deal with this building, and it has to move into a use that is a 100-year use, a 100-year use. And that, because it's not a city building, it's not a governmental building, we believe that has to be some kind of residential housing that is, that's like these higher end apartments in Salt Lake that have been managed for nearly 50 years by, you know, wise and very good managers, not just fly-by-night managers. We want it to be managed in a way that structurally will give us a valued, sought out, increasing valuation type setting for decades and decades to come. And we believe that's possible, but we also believe it's the only way to keep this building. We don't see any other business and coming into this. And Joyce and I are committed. We're going to, on our watch, it's going to go one way or the other. And it's pretty much up to the community. I mean, if they're just against everything, as much as we would like to increase property values and so forth, I mean, ultimately, I guess you could argue if we put a few homes in there, it may or may not increase property values. I know based on the research that's been done that this particular development, as it's shown, will definitely increase property values. And now the density is low enough that it's not going to impact traffic significantly. There won't be calls for research and studies done on that. There won't be issues of, you know, over density as far as, well, traffic I just mentioned, but in terms of all the other ways that it impacts, it'll be just something that's quiet and works functionally very well. Is going to cater to, you know, you don't want to be too judgmental in this, but the reality is we're going to be very careful in how it's managed and the individual segments, their classifications, if you will, that will be moving into this facility. It's
Okay,
definitely not
Mr.
going to
Jungling?
be a low income facility.
Mr. Jungling, I'm going to stop you right there. You've had 10 minutes. Any
you.
comments from the commissioners for Mr. Jungling on this project? Like I said, this is the fourth time we've seen him. We've got the comments from the citizens in the neighborhood. What does the commissioners think? One last time. I think the only thing we're going to have to go to, Mr. Jungling, is you're going to have to make a formal presentation or formal submittal to the city and go through the process of getting the report back, a written report back from planning, and then it'll go forward to city council, either with a denial or a approval.
Yeah,
Commissioners, what do you think?
yeah.
Mr. Chair, just a quick question. So, or more of a comment. Based on what I was hearing from Adam, it's more meeting the code as it stands. I see that being the biggest challenge with the residential outcry. I get it. I understand it. Sometimes it's change, and we can be very resistant of change. But that setting that factor aside, where I sit is it's got to meet. It should be pushing the edges of the code. It should fit within the code, and so if our planning staff doesn't feel like it fits the code, that makes it hard for me personally to overlook that.
I agree. That's why we have them. They're the planning staff for the city. We work hand in hand with them to make the best decisions we can for the city. And that means it has to meet the code. What about the rest of you? Ryan, Harold, whatever.
This is Ryan. I would concur with Jeff's comments. I think while I'm in, I think it's significantly better considering that there's only 18 new units, as opposed to maybe I'm totally up in the night, but I had in my head that it was like 80 units at one point. So maybe it's been, modified down. I could be totally wrong. Without an actual application, I don't know that we're necessarily in a position to really talk about it, but I guess total units is 41 now. So, but again, I think the intent of the code is to protect and preserve historic buildings, not to create I still feel like this is, to Jeff's point, somewhat skirting it or squeezing it in. We're building a development and, hey, let's use this historic building as a way to get there. That's how it's perceived by me. So that's all I have to say.
Well, it says right in the code that it cannot be detrimental to the surrounding area, which is residential. So Ryan, thank you. Jeff, thank you. What about the other commissions? Christine, Harold, what do you think before we shut it down and move on?
Well,
this is Harold.
Go ahead.
I think this is an improvement over what we've seen before, and I've spoken several times regarding this, and I think at this point, I would rather just state and kind of restate what others have said, that I think a formal application needs to take place, and then we can really dig in our sleeves and comment, have public comment, and I think it's got to the point that I would rather just hold my comments till an actual formal application was made.
I agree 100%. Thank you. Christine, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I agree with Harold. I'm not against the look and the work that has gone into this. I do feel like you're doing it because you love the building, and we all do. And I think that you're going in the right direction. There's been a lot of adjustments to, like Ryan said, lower the number of units, and the look is going along with the architecture of the building. But in order to get to be able to really talk about details, it would be great to see a formal submittal, and then we can hash it out. I do have one other thing I wanted to say, possibly to all the people who are listening. And I've read twice all of the comments. I appreciate all of the comments and your willingness to engage in your community and speak up. So thank you for watching. Thank you for emailing in. And aside from the acceptability of this exact proposal, which we aren't able to make a decision on tonight, and we won't be approving tonight, I wanted to just offer a couple of ideas about how we view housing options around us, because when we live in a neighborhood that offers benefits of a great community and good schools, we know that's something that not all neighborhoods offer. And I hope that we aren't opposed ever to sharing a neighborhood with anyone outside of our economic status. So, you have to think, who would these people be who would move into our neighborhood if we had duplexes or apartments? It would be our grown children who are starting a family and want to live close to us, or it would be our aging parents who want to downsize and want to live close to us. And I just hope that we wouldn't ever claim that anything other than a single family housing setup would make an environment that is not favorable to family life or good community, and or that allowing these neighborhoods, these uses into our neighborhoods would ruin the character of a neighborhood, because multifamily homes can be a great addition to a neighborhood, and they do not only belong in commercial or industrial areas. And we might just consider that we want our young families and our small families to be able to access the benefits that we have as members of our neighborhoods. So although we won't be recommending approval for this development this evening, and although we as a planning commission and staff are certainly committed to honoring the property rights of everyone involved, I hope that we can keep working on being open-minded and open-hearted about the people that we're willing to share our communities with. So just
all right. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Yingling, I think we've come to the point where you've got to submit a formal request for formal submittal. I would personally like to see the overall cost that you talk about. I mean, as a professional geologist, I know for a fact that to do a seismic upgrade on that old building is going to cost you an awful lot of money. I wish you luck, but I don't know how you're going to pull it off. But I think your next step is to make a formal presentation, formal submittal to the city, and we'll just go from there, because this is a discussion item only tonight, and that's all we can tell you.
I thank you very much for your input on that. And we'll move forward with that application.
All right, we look forward to seeing your application when it comes across the desk again next time around. Thank you very much, everyone. All right, moving on. Other business. Adam, do you have any other business we need to discuss?
I will keep you informed on the status of when we will be meeting in person. I know the council is trying to do that at their meeting next week. We're going to see how that works, what kind of kinks there might be to work out, and then we'll move forward from there. So if we don't meet in person at the next meeting, for sure we would likely do it in May, but we're just going to see how it works with the council, and then I'll just keep you informed, and the chairman and I will work together on that and how that may best be accomplished. So that's all I have.
And we'll let the rest of you know as soon as we find out from the mayor and the city administrator and whoever else we have to answer to. There will be a special city council meeting on April 29th to replace Barbara Christiansen.
Yes.
Her funeral is tomorrow at the church there on 300 North and about 4th East.
I believe it's Friday, and so the city had posted kind of a little statement on that, and I believe there's a link to participate or to watch the funeral through Zoom. Then there's also there's a link for that, so I believe that's Friday, I want to say.
I must be mistaken. I thought it was tomorrow, but it makes more sense it'd be Friday. So those of you might want to check in on Zoom to show our respects to Barbara. She was a class lady, no doubt about it.
Mr. Chair, if I could say something a moment about Barbara. So
Go ahead.
I had the opportunity to have several different conversations with Barbara. Some of them, because of the working relationship of a reporter versus someone who is in public relations as I am. Sometimes you could be at odds a little bit. When those conversations were a little more difficult to discuss, she was always very professional, always very respectful, and very warm, regardless of the topic that she was interviewing me about. So I just want to publicly say what we have lost someone, a tremendous soul, but she left. What's more important is she left a really good legacy within our community.
Yeah, she was a class lady. That is for sure. All right, moving on. Site plan committee report. Vendling, what do we got coming down the pike now, it looks like?
You've already heard about one item, the Lake City Row master plan again. Otherwise, we have these items lined up. And a final plat for the Autumn Crest Plat E subdivision. So that is pretty close to finishing that area out. An annexation agreement in the southern portion of the TOD area, and then a co-text amendment. And that should be everything. And then in addition to that, the Lake City Row master plan amendment.
All right. Yeah, not quite as long a meeting as tonight, hopefully.
Right.
Moving right along, review and action on the minutes of the March 17th, 2021 Planning Commission regular session. Do I have a motion on the minutes, please?
Mr. Chair, this is Jeff. I move to approve.
All right, a motion from Jeff. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Christine. Any further comments? Hearing none. Christine?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Harold?
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye also. Passes 5-0. All right, we're down to the big one. Does someone want to make a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn. This is Ryan.
Okay, Ryan, adjourn, a motion. Second, please.
Second.
Second from Christine. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. It's been an interesting evening.
Thank you all. Thanks for your comments, Jeff.
Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thank everybody for your comments. That's why we're a good group together. We get everything covered, it seems like. Appreciate your input, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Night, Rebecca.